A beer hall in Munich, a Hilton and the carpenter who almost killed Hitler. This is the story of Georg Elser. Let's start with the Bürgerbräukeller. The Bürgerbräukeller was a massive beer hall. Almost 2,000 people fit into this building. Today on its ground is a Hilton, which I booked myself into. This building was at the core of history. In 1923, Hitler and his SR cronies tried to storm the Bürgerbräukeller to declare that he was taking over Munich and of course Bavaria, and later he would take on Berlin. This coup d'etat failed. Hitler was arrested and he became for the first time worldwide news. When he unfortunately came out of prison, every year on November 8th, the day of the failed coup d'etat, Hitler held a speech at the Bürgerbräukeller. This brings us to our hero. Georg Elser was born in 1903. That means he experienced the Great Depression, the First World War. He also experienced the Nazis' rise to power. Plus, his stepdad was an alcoholic. Just imagine what all of this does to your mindset, to your view of the world. Georg became a carpenter and he was known for being especially meticulous with his work. It might surprise you, but Georg was not particularly political. He was interested first and foremost in the plight of his fellow working men and women. When he heard Hitler speak, he was sure this guy would drag Germany in another war, and the first people who would suffer and die because of it were the working class people. And so he thought to himself, I have to stop this. So in 1938, Georg traveled to Munich and he waited until Hitler was done with his annual speech at the Bürgerbräukeller, and he took a look around. He saw that right behind the speaker's desk was a pillar. And he decided this would be the perfect place for a time bomb. He began to steal all the ingredients, all the stuff he needed, and he took little test runs with his bombs in the remote orchard of his parents. Then Georg moved to Munich. He told his neighbors that he was an inventor, so they would not be suspicious about his comings and goings, and he became a regular at the Bürgerbräukeller. Every evening he took his dinner there, and then he hid in a broom closet and waited until everybody left, and then he started to work at the pillar. For 30 nights he carved out the pillar until there was enough room for his little time bomb, and he hid everything. Remember, this guy was famous for being meticulous at his work. There was no debris to be found, and when you would knock on the pillar, you wouldn't hear that it was hollow inside. He took care of everything. And so November 8, 1939 came closer. Georg took one final look. The time bomb should go off at 9:20 in the evening. When he saw everything was as it should, he tried to leave the country through the border from Germany to Switzerland. But because Georg was not a political person and he hated Hitler with everything he had, he did not listen to the radio, to any of the speeches, to any of the news. If he had, he would have known that the speech was cancelled last minute. At this point in time, Hitler had already invaded Poland and he wanted to invade other parts of Europe. But because the weather got bad, Hitler decided he would give his speech after all, but only a shortened version. So he traveled to Munich on his special train and he gave his speech earlier than planned and shorter than planned. Remember, the time bomb was to go off at 9:20 and Hitler was done with his speech at 9 o'clock sharp. And at 9:07 he left the Bürgerbräukeller to catch his train. So Hitler was on his train, leaving Munich, leaving Bavaria, when at 9:20 the bomb exploded, just as Georg had planned. And it did kill a couple of Nazis and one unfortunate server, but Hitler was unscathed. At the same time, Georg had reached the border to Switzerland and he wanted to cross. But the border guards saw that his papers were expired. Then they saw that he had an old badge of the Communist Party he was briefly interested in. Then they learned that there was an explosion in the Bürgerbräukeller and an attempt to kill Hitler. When Elser was searched, they found in his jacket pockets a spare fuse and a postcard of the Bürgerbräukeller. Georg was questioned and he was tortured because the Nazis could not believe that one guy was able to pull this off. Only the fact that Hitler left early had saved him from being killed. The Nazis only believed him when they said to him, okay, you did this alone, give us a list of everything you used to build this bomb and talk us through every step you took to build it. And so Elser did. When it sunk in that Elser really did it alone, this was very frightening for the Nazis, because it meant that not only was the Führer not beloved by all Germans, but that one simple guy from the people could change the course of history. And what did the Nazis do with him? They put him in solitary confinement and they gave him a wrong name. So nobody knew that this was the guy from the Munich assassination attempt. And they treated him well in context, in the standards of a concentration camp. They wanted him to be alive for when they had their big victory. They wanted to make a show trial, but luckily the Nazis did not win the war. And one of the last things Hitler ordered before he killed himself was that Elser should die. And so it happened. Elser was shot in a concentration camp shortly before this camp was freed. It took Germany a long time to realize what kind of special human being Georg Elser was. He was really a have-a-go hero. He was a single guy that decided he had to change something, and he did it. And if you are in Munich, you can go to the Hilton and you find right next to the Hilton there is a plate in the floor, not only commemorating Georg Elser, but it is placed right at the spot where he hid his bomb to kill Hitler. I thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.